If you are a manager and looking for a small but incredibly effective tool and technique that will increase the motivation of each member on your team, look no further than the one-on-one meeting. Now, there is a right way and a wrong way to use this one-on-one meeting to get the most out of your people. In this week's episode of The Happy Leader, I'm going to dive into exactly how to conduct that one-on-one meeting so it can be incredibly meaningful and drive the results that you're looking for from your people. Welcome to The Happy Leader. I'm Amy Sanchez, executive coach to some of the most innovative leaders and teams in Silicon Valley. I'll share stories and tips to help you navigate the most common leadership challenges so you can amplify what matters most: happiness. As you think about your past bosses, you likely have one that still leaves you cringing when you think about how you felt when you worked for them. You hopefully also have one that you still feel really inspired by and perhaps even still loyal to this day. Now, as you keep those two visions in mind, you will probably resonate with the fact that there are several behaviors that we see good managers exhibit. Today's episode is going to focus on one behavior that as a manager can be one of the most valuable tools in your toolbox. It's very easy to implement, and when done right, it can produce a measurable increase in both engagement and satisfaction. This elusive tool that I'm referring to is the one-on-one meeting. Now, here are some statistics before we get into more detail about this powerful tool. 70% of the variance in employee engagement is caused by an employee's manager, according to Gallup. That's no surprise, right? Going back and thinking about that one manager that still makes you cringe, I'm willing to guess that you were not nearly as engaged and excited about working for them and showing up at work every day. So that makes a lot of sense. According to HBR, Harvard Business Review, the best managers recognize that one-on-one meetings are not an add-on to their role. They are foundational to it. Those who fully embrace these meetings as the place where leadership happens can make their team's day-to-day and output better and more efficient, build trust and psychological safety, and improve employees' well-being. Okay, so wow, that was a big statement. Just this one-on-one meeting can lead to all of those positive psychological impacts and behavior improvements at work. Okay, now I was a little dubious too. And then I thought back to the meetings that I'd had and the meetings I'd conducted with my one-on-ones. And I'd never really put the pieces together that it was the one-on-one that was the game changer. But it can be a huge game changer when you do it right. I'm going to give you very specific tips about how to do this right, how often to do it, in what environment to do it, all the things. But for a minute, let's just explore what could possibly happen during such a short time that could make such an impact. So here's the deal. As we break down a typical work week, it is filled with answering emails, responding to Slack messages, attending meetings, and some of the time we actually get the work done, right? During this time, we are bombarded with information that we're processing. This information is both informing our work, so we can incorporate it to up-level the final product. This inflow of information is also going through our internal filter and leading to a myriad of emotions about ourselves and those we're interacting with. It is very rare that we take the time and space at work to just sort of weed through all that influx of information and all those emotions that are showing up for us. But when we do, the connections and the insights that we can make are incredibly powerful, and that's where growth begins. The one-on-one meeting is an opportunity to step away from the massive influx of information. So the one-on-one meeting isn't just giving your employee more information. It's a chance to step away and tap into how your employee is processing the swirl around them and also helping them step back to see the big picture. You likely have access to information that they could benefit from as they think about pulling the pieces together of some of their projects. Why is the work that I'm doing benefiting senior management, the company, our customers, advancing our purpose as a company, et cetera, et cetera? So now I'm starting to plant the seed of what this one-on-one meeting could look like to really work in your benefit as well as the benefit of your employee. During this meeting, as you access the bigger picture, you're checking in with how are they doing? What's working? What isn't working? What's their end goal or purpose as they go about their day? What are their career ambitions? And what motivates them? Imagine how valuable that insight would be as a manager if you knew exactly what motivated each one of your individual employees. And by the way, it's probably different for each one. This time that you spend one-on-one with your employee is your opportunity to truly connect with each and every one of them to gauge how they're doing and what's happening in the groups they're interacting with and what's the best way to support their growth. It gives you, as the manager, a valuable pulse check, and it also enables you to fuel their growth and coach them through difficulty. In a world where people are your greatest asset, this one-on-one meeting is your chance to truly connect. Now are you starting to see how powerful it can be when it's consistently used and put in place? Those of you who have had a manager who have conducted this one-on-one meeting incredibly well and used that time as a chance to really build trust and safety and advance your growth as an employee, know the power of this time and this exercise. I'm going to give you a couple of examples, both of my experience on the receiving end of these meetings, and then also as I've worked with leaders in Silicon Valley as an executive coach, how I've seen this tool being implemented and the powerful change that it has driven. I had two managers really on the opposite ends of the spectrum as it related to the one-on-one meeting. Let me start with the positive. So one manager did have an ongoing weekly check-in with me. And during this time, he rarely ever canceled it. I knew I could depend on having him during this time, and I was able to prepare for this meeting as a result. All the questions that I had during the week and all the things that I needed his insight on, I would jot down, knowing that we would have this meeting together. During this time, he checked in with me to see how I was doing, beyond just going into my one-on-one list and some of the small detail questions that I had. He really was tapping into how was I liking the job? What could we do to make the job more engaging, more exciting? What was working for me and what was challenging for me? He highlighted the wins that I had and the strengths that he saw in me through these meetings, and that was incredibly empowering. And he let me talk through my struggles, not by telling me how to solve them or by taking them off my plate and swooping in and playing the hero and solving them for me, but offering me wisdom about what worked for him in the past and coached me to the right answer through open-ended questions. I'm going to pop that in there. It's a small but really significant difference in the way that you can conduct these meetings. With closed-ended questions, you're likely going to get a one-word answer. Did you get that project done? Yes. Were you able to meet all your timelines? Yes. Did you work with all the people you needed to work with? Yes. That's very different than how did that project go for you? What difficulties did you run into? Who was the most helpful person to you and why during this project? Very subtle difference, but using these open-ended questions versus these closed-ended questions can draw out a lot more insights for your direct report as well as information for you. Him using this approach with me felt incredibly empowering. I knew that he cared about me. He demonstrated it every time we met in our one-on-one. And it was more than just, are you getting the work done, Amy? Because I am accountable to the work that you're doing, and more about, hey, how you doing? How can I help you? How can I support you? I still feel loyal and grateful to him to this day. And that was 13 years ago. On the flip side, I had a manager who considered these meetings a superfluous time block on her calendar, and they were often canceled. There were many times when we went a month without meeting. I had a lot of things that I need to check with her on because I was running point on high priority projects and needed her input to move forward. So her canceling them really held back my timeline in a way that was frustrating. These meetings were also just us running through a checklist of all my to-dos. And I had probably 30 to 40 to-dos on any one week when I was meeting with her. This was when I worked for a rapidly growing startup, and there was a lot to do and there were a lot of hats to wear. We rarely got all the things on my to-dos, and she never asked me any questions about my well-being or my career growth desires. We never had a conversation about that, even during review time. Her approach really mirrored that of the environment I was in. It felt like jumping into a fire every time we met and then feeling burned and drained after our meeting with only scars to show. It did not feel empowering. In fact, her canceling and the approach that she took with me really led to me thinking many times about leaving the company. As the saying goes, you don't leave a company, you leave a boss. So these interactions that you're going to have with your employees in a one-on-one setting are a really powerful way to build a strong connection and build trust. I've been recently training a group of middle managers. We've been doing leadership training. And one of the modules we recently covered was the importance of these one-on-one meetings and the best practices to conducting them, which I'm going to share with you soon. Those who have implemented these learnings of the importance of the one-on-one meeting, how to conduct them, and kept them at a regular cadence have shared that they have begun to connect with their direct reports in a way that they never did before. It's a new and meaningful way, and they're starting to learn things about their direct reports that they never knew before. They've also reported an increase in self-initiative. How great would that be if people started to take more initiative, your direct reports started to take more initiative? They're starting to see that from these one-on-ones, and their people are also seeing how much they care. The leaders who are really implementing these one-on-ones are seeing their direct reports actively wanting to do well. And in the past, asks that were met in reluctance are now readily tended to. Now, you're probably thinking about this thinking, wow, how can 30 minutes a week make such a large difference in terms of the initiative that my direct report has? Well, we've got the principle of reciprocity at play here. Similar to a neighbor who helps you when you're going through a rough patch, being on the receiving end of a caring and helpful gesture motivates you to want to return the favor. How can I help my neighbor out? They really helped me and supported me when I was in a tough spot. Now I want to return the favor. When these one-on-ones are done right and you model this caring and supportive approach consistently, your direct report will start to ask, how can I best support my manager? All right, so now that you know the profound impact that these one-on-ones can have, let's talk about how to set you up for success as you start to implement these with your direct reports or tweak the ones that you already conduct. You likely have your own experiences reflecting on past one-on-ones. So let's start there. Tapping into your past experience is an incredibly powerful coaching technique, and it's always one that you can use to think about your vision for the future. As you think about your past one-on-ones that were really empowering, what did you like? What did you dislike? What was empowering and what was draining about past meetings with your boss? Just taking 5-10 minutes to answer these questions will help you start to build a really compelling vision about where you want to take your one-on-ones. However, if you're like some of the managers in my management training class, you may not have had the type of boss who could hold space for an empowering one-on-one. And if that's the case, think back to other forums where you might have had this in the past. Authority figures, parents, religious leaders, coaches, etc. from sports. It helps to have a vision where you want to take these empowering one-on-ones so you can rework how you approach your meetings. All right, so now you've got a vision. Let's talk purpose. The one-on-one is not the time to run through the list of projects and ask for updates. That is probably the most commonly way these one-on-one meetings are done and conducted. This meeting is really to empower, check in, and draw the everyday back to a bigger picture for your direct reports. Now, you still need that forum where you get project updates. I really encourage you to find project management software that can help you with that. Instead, this one-on-one time is a time to check in on well-being, explore team dynamics, discover work habits, what's working and what isn't working for them, talk professional development goals and plans. This is where you check in. Where do you want to go? Why do you want to go there? There's the carrot for why they want to work so hard. This is also a really valuable time to connect their job tasks to purpose, whether it be a larger purpose that they have in their life or a larger purpose as an organization that you're focused on. Why is it important that they come to work every day? What's the emotional connection and tie that they can grab onto? You also want to deliver both empowering, positive feedback as well as constructive feedback. This is not about just patting your employee on the back and just offering to help at any which way that you can. This is about helping to advance their understanding, seeing what's working and also what isn't working. Once you build that trust with your direct report, you want to give very professional, but also candid feedback about things that they'll want to tune into to become even stronger in the workplace. It is important that you're developing constructive feedback during these one-on-ones. Also, it's a great chance for you to seek feedback as a manager. Sometimes it's hard to know how things land, and this is a great opportunity for you to check in. Just by asking that question, and it's a really vulnerable question, hey, how am I doing as a manager? What would you like to see differently from me? Really shows your employees that you care. And although it can be uncomfortable, it's a very important way to build trust. So when you cover topics like that in this one-on-one, this conversation truly helps to connect the dots for your employee to help answer the question of why do I come to work every day? If you are at a place where your direct reports are doing the bare minimum work, they're probably in the space of my job is just to collect a paycheck. That is never going to give you the type of performance that you want. So here are some best practices as you think about this one-on-one. First of all, share the intention of this meeting with your direct report. This is a support meeting to support their success. It's a chance to discuss what's working, what isn't working, get updates on progress, and support their career progression. From a cadence standpoint, a timing standpoint, shoot to meet about 30 minutes once a week or 60 minutes every 2 weeks. Let your employee build the agenda. This starts to build accountability and also gets them way more involved in the meeting. For a sample template that you can share with your direct report that they can fill out and send to you prior to the meeting, reach out to me on LinkedIn. Search for Amy Sanchez, Executive Coach. There's also a link in the notes. Just message me and I'll send you a sample template that you can leverage to send to your employee. Also, in this meeting, listen more than talk. This is their meeting. So make sure that you're being an active listener and asking really thoughtful questions to the things that they're sharing with you. Ask your employee to create a shared document that includes their yearly goals and updates, action items that you identify in each meeting. You don't want this to be a meeting where you create all the good feelings and all the great experiences, but there are no to-dos coming out of the meeting. This is still a business. You still have revenue targets that you're trying to hit. So make sure that you sort of sew those two threads together so that this really meaningful, helpful conversation now also leads to action items. This shared document is a great place to track those action items, create accountability, and also reminds you both what came up through the year. This document will significantly reduce your time when performance review comes and also eliminate any surprises when you go to have conversations about how they're performing. Try not to cancel this meeting and be present during this meeting. Of course, there are going to be times when you've just come off a holiday and you just need to catch up. And every once in a while, it's understandable that you'll need to cancel this meeting, but do your very best that you can to protect this time. It's incredibly important. Also, focus on creating a positive experience through this meeting. That doesn't mean you're not candid. It does mean you create psychological safety for your employee and create an experience that's going to make them motivated to want to meet with you and work with you. Find a neutral location. If it's in your office, try not to sit with a barrier in between you like a desk. You may want to mix it up by grabbing coffee or taking a walk while talking. If this is over Zoom, Cameras on. Really important that you're looking eyeball to eyeball to help establish trust and pick up on any nonverbal cues. Finally, don't assume your one-on-ones are empowering. Make sure you check in and ask questions. What'd you like about this meeting? What can I do differently to improve it? What feedback do you have for me that could make me a more effective manager? As we talked about before, this is a really powerful way for you to just gauge how you're doing and what you can tweak to meet the individual needs of the people that you manage. There's a lot of layers to each human being. So taking the time to really understand each person as an individual is going to help you immensely. Okay, now a couple things to look out for to make sure that your employee is also reciprocating in the appropriate way. If your employee starts to use this meeting to complain about everything that is wrong, that's not a constructive use of this meeting. That's a venting session. They need to find a different avenue in order to do that. You'll want to reset expectations. And this is also not a session where you're going to swoop in to fix all their problems. Sometimes as a manager, we think in order to help my employees, anytime there's a problem, I'm going to jump in, take it off their plate and fix it. That's just going to bury you. So resist the need to do that. That's also going to take away really valuable learning opportunities for them. Resist the urge and the temptation to save your employees. Instead, ask really thought-provoking questions that will help them think about the solution. This meeting is a growth opportunity for your employees. That means that they get to find ways to recognize their strengths. They get to hear from you. You also can provide that venue for them. What do you think your top strengths are? What strengths did you apply in this project that really helped you advance the agenda? Help them identify that and tap into that. Also, it's a great way to help them determine how to overcome challenges using those open-ended questions to help them get to how they might solve it. They are talented and capable. Sometimes it's just the right questions to pull that out and to empower them and give them confidence. It's like if you're ever around kids and you jump in and solve a problem for them, that's a short-term fix. But the better longer-term fix is to teach them, show them, allow them to fix it, and then next time they know how to do it. Another caveat as we think about your well-being as a manager, if you have more than 6 direct reports, finding time to do this with each direct report weekly can be a challenge. So find a cadence that's not going to cause you to feel overly stretched and burnt out. If you have more than 9 direct reports, that's likely too many. Explore ways that you can promote a high achiever to manage some of your direct reports and reduce the number of people who report to you so you really can have meaningful growth opportunities with each employee. So to wrap all this up, if you want to introduce one change that will really move the needle for you, that is a small but yet meaningful change, this type of consistent one-on-one meeting is a great place to start. Your employee's success is directly related to your success. So don't underestimate how much investing in them will pay off for you and directly lead to better outcomes, more satisfaction, and happiness. And the beauty of seeing someone else shine when you've had even a small influence in their development is one of the greatest gifts in this life. I hope some of these tips work for you. Message me and let me know what worked, what didn't work, where you're stumbling, and we'll get you to the right place. In the meantime, stay happy out there. Thanks for listening to The Happy Leader. If you would like more information about me, Amy Sanchez, and our executive coaching and team leadership services at Swim Against the Current, visit swim-against.com. And if you liked this podcast, help others who could use the support find it by giving us a rating. Until next time, life is short. Stay happy.